Welcome, my dears. I can call you that, can't I? After all, once you are back on our video channel, it means that we have already made friends with you. And warm feelings among friends, this is normal. I will not bore you with waiting and a long introduction, but suggest that you listen to the first story from a huge stack of unprinted letters. Make yourself comfortable and don't judge harshly. And so, we begin.
I had an ordinary family, mom and dad. We lived in a small town. My mother has a sister, Mary. The age difference between them is several years, and Aunt Mary has a daughter, Tanya. She is 2 years younger than me. When we were very young, we were often taken to a village near the city to my grandmother, and my relationship with my sister was excellent. Mary, as soon as she got married, immediately moved with her husband to the regional center. It is very close to our city, so they came to my grandmother every weekend, and in the summer, Tanya and I were constantly together at my grandmother's or went to the same camps. Our life with Tanya was very different from the very childhood. She lived in one of the largest cities in the state. She had a lot of friends there, amusement parks. She even always dressed much better than me. Mary and her husband worked very hard, earning quite a lot of money. But my parents earned very little, and we lived very poorly. I remember even wearing the same sneakers for a whole year, both in winter and summer. In short, I envied my sister, but with white envy. I always treated her very well, always helped her in any way I could, supported her. I just wanted to live like her. Of course I couldn't blame her, because it was her parents, not her. So I was angry at my parents, and even sometimes wondered what would have happened if I had been born into my aunt's family and not my mother's. Of course, now I am madly ashamed of all these thoughts, but then I was a child and did not understand much. My parents divorced when I was in my teens. It was terrible for me. I was already registered with a neurologist all my childhood. I had problems with my nerves, and then this. In short, I have numerous neuroses. I'm half bald. The head was transparent, and the crown was visible. I went with a boy's haircut. Long hair was out of the question. Thank you to my classmates for not laughing at me, but supporting me, because children can be very cruel. I was no longer invited to children's birthday parties. My relatives invited me, but I saw how they looked at the reaction of other guests, and often asked me to put a scarf on my head. Hair began to recover and more or less returned to normal, but they grew very poorly, broke down. At school, I became very bad at school. I started playing truant a lot. Then I began to communicate only with bad children. Got into bad company. She started drinking, smoking, and taking light drugs. I often began to miss family holidays, or because of a hangover, or because I was planning a party with friends, which was more important to me. Of course, I also madly regret this. My mom couldn't handle me, and my dad didn't raise me. Generally, only gave money, and that's it. My relatives had a very bad opinion of me. Once, even on a family holiday, a relative started checking my veins in front of everyone. Of course, I didn't stoop to such serious drugs. Then I just laughed, and now I remember, and I am very offended because of that act of hers. Why would she do that? And in front of everyone, when my relatives saw my new husband and his relatives, they realized that they were wrong and approved of my choice. Since then, the attitude towards me has been restored for the better. Then we went to Mexico, for the first time in my life, went on vacation, and even abroad. The stay was short, only 6 days, and the hotel has 3 stars. And Mary kept going around and complaining that this kind of vacation was only for losers. At that moment, my husband made a remark to her, and she cried for a long time. Even her husband didn't stand up for her and went to comfort her. We were extremely happy. Although 3 stars, but the hotel is huge with a pool and excellent food. What more could you want? As for Tanya, perhaps, at the beginning of the story, it should have been made clear that Aunt Mary, her mother, is just a terrible person. She is constantly rude to everyone, shouts, cannot communicate normally at all. She also has mental problems. In general, I think we have it in the family. It's just that I was cured of it, and instead of being treated, she works very hard all the time. A real career woman. The house does not have time to do anything. As a result, the husband is engaged in household chores. Tanya was under severe pressure all the time. All her friends were very serious interview. As a result, she was allowed to communicate with only one girl, whom Tanya did not particularly like, and she was very bored with her. Every day there were calls to teachers. She was sent to art school, although she hated drawing. They demanded the best results from her always and everywhere. I was actually very surprised when I found out that in elementary school, she had C's, while I was studying for straight A's then. Then came the 4s after the 4th grade, and I fell to the bottom somewhere in the 7th grade when I learned about my parents' divorce. Naturally, Mary was just beside herself with anger. After all, at all events and family holidays, she talked about her child as a genius of some kind. That she is the best and most capable everywhere, and here it is. She didn't do very well in art school either. This is all told to me by Tanya herself when we talked with her at her grandmother's. And Mary was lying to everyone that she was getting straight A's and her work was the best in school. Tanya treated her failures normally and constantly said the same thing, that if her mother shouted at her less, then maybe she would have at least a little more desire to do something. By the way, her mother really wanted her to become a doctor. It so happened that our grandmother worked as a chief doctor for many years, and we enjoyed certain privileges many times. Mary decided that they had enough connections to be successful in the field of medicine. But the fact is that Tanya herself did not want to do all this at all. She wanted to be a designer. When Mary heard this, there was a wild row. She just shut up her daughter, and that's it. By the way, as for my education, my mother found me a distance education, so I studied when I wanted to. From the very beginning of my relationship with Steve, I told him everything about my family, about Tanya, about Mary wanting to send her to medical school. Without knowing it, I began to understand that I really want to go to medicine, and even chose my own direction. But my self-esteem was so far down that I didn't think I could handle it. If I hated school so much and couldn't go to class, how did I go to medical school? It is considered one of the most difficult. It is very difficult to study there. But Steve supported me in everything and always said that he believed in me and everything would be fine. I started thinking about it more seriously at the age of 19, and then it was decided that I would prepare for the entrance exams. At that time, Tanya graduated from school with numerous triples. Mary no longer said that her daughter was a genius, but she was sure that she would definitely go to medical school. It's clear that there was no doubt from anybody at all. After all, Tanya is good. She is the golden child of our family. And school so poorly graduated from 4 bad teachers, and itself Tanya of course not is to blame in this. I at that time received a diploma, which by the way I defended perfectly. Of course, the family was happy, but somehow not particularly. They most wanted to know if Tanya would do it. She didn't get in. I noticed that she doesn't go to social networks at all. Apparently the punishment was quite severe. They didn't even go on vacation that summer as usual. Yes, they flew at least 3 times a year to different countries. Tanya in general was very happy and decided that she could go to study as a designer. But her mother gave her documents to another institute for banking, which Tanya did not like at all. And Mary told her that she will be preparing all year and I was going to go to med school. Like, it's good that they went to school at 6 years old and not at 7. No one will even notice anything by age. Why it was necessary to simultaneously study at one institute and prepare for admission to another educational place, no one understood. All the relatives were disappointed. Once I even heard such words, the same as Kate, she doesn't seem to be very smart. Kate, it's me. It so happened that at that age Tanya became more free in her actions, and after school she could come to visit me. I noticed that Tanya was reaching out to me, that I was like the only person who understood her at all. But one day Mary found me on social media. She also saw a lot of photos with me. So she realized that we were seeing each other and made a terrible row. She started calling me, my mom, and even my dad. She said that I was a very bad influence on her daughter, that she drank there all day, and now I understand why she didn't pass the exams. It was a shame to hear all this. Very. During that year, I decided that I needed a job so that I could study at the same time because my husband alone could not pull everything on himself. I paid attention to online stores. Once upon a time, I already created such a social network. Networks where they sell beautiful women's clothes. But Mary laughed at my idea and said it wasn't serious. It seemed so wild to me at the time. After all, this is your own business. Let a small, but its own. Even with a meager income. Then my self-esteem sank to the bottom again, and I just deleted the store. At 19, I created it again. Only this time I took it very seriously. And it's gone. I bought a promoted account that previously sold clothes, and sales went almost instantly. And then I was working at my main job with a schedule of 2 through 2, and if I managed to snatch a part-time job, I always went out. So did my husband. Our life has changed dramatically. We gave up all bad habits, began to play sports, food was prepared at home only useful, self-development, reading books and much more. I didn't even think that life could be so interesting and full without parties. We were able to save up for a down payment on a mortgage and bought our 2-bedroom apartment. When the repairs were made, everyone was immediately invited to a housewarming party. We celebrated very well, and my family's eyes were full of pride. But they didn't like us making the bedroom our own, you see. In their opinion, it is time for us to give birth to children, and, accordingly, that room should be a children's room. Although we did not think about children then, and we still live for ourselves. In addition, everything went well. Mary was not happy all evening. I had the feeling that she didn't like the way things were going for me. Soon all the relatives gathered at my grandmother's. In general, it was planned just a small gathering, but just on that very day the lists of those who entered the medical school were to be posted. So the family gathered, and my husband and I went there, and Mary and Tanya too. I should have found out for myself if I did or not. As a result, we read the lists. As it happens, we missed the first few names. I see that my name is not there, and so is Tanya. I was terribly upset and thought it was a good thing I didn't tell anyone about it. And then we decided to read everything again, and someone from the family says, "Look at the name there, like our Katya's. And then I look, really my full name. Everyone looks at me and says yes, it's just a namesake. But I said I did. We knew by the date of birth that it was really me. At the top of the list. I got an. Honestly, I don't remember the first 10 minutes at all. It was as if I was in a kind of prostration. Everyone congratulated me and hugged me. I just couldn't understand what was going on around me. Then I realized. Everyone decided to get together for dinner. After all, there will be another doctor in the family. And it turns out that Tanya's parents made a huge cake to order, on which it was written, "Congratulations on Tanya's arrival." Tanya erased her name and wrote mine in chocolate. We all began to eat, celebrate, and be happy. Tanya was very happy for me. Her family didn't understand her mirth, so she said, "I'm sorry, I don't like medicine, so it's good that I didn't enroll. I want to be a designer, and I'm very happy for my sister." Relatives began to resent that. They say, as it is, why should the poor child be forced to study for a profession that does not like? Then Mary comes into the room all red with angry eyes and starts just frantically yelling why we took the cake. It was for Tanya. And I saw that my name was written there. She took Tanya with her and yelled at her for a very long time. She said she was a disgrace to the family. that her daughter couldn't be so stupid, that how is it possible that Katya got in, and even for free, and she didn't get in at all. Then she stayed in her grandmother's bedroom and cried for a long time. She forbade Tanya to celebrate with us. I also scolded her for telling me that she didn't like medicine but wanted to become a designer. That these are the genes of a stupid father. The husband just got up in silence, took the car keys and drove away. It is necessary to put a monument to him during his life that he tolerates such a wife. Probably for his daughter's sake. It was very difficult, but I love studying there. Now I am already in the 4th year of study. Tanya left home at the age of 18. She left the institute and never went back. She tried to make peace with her parents, but they locked her in the house for a month. It got to the point where she called the police. Now she lives with a guy, works in a store. She says she's happy with everything. I often help her with money. We communicate very well and spend a lot of time together. If it weren't for all the bad things that happened to me, I would never have made it. If Mary had behaved normally towards Tanya, everything would have been fine. She wouldn't have left home and gotten a college degree instead of working as a salesman. Tanya herself said that her mother broke her and she just couldn't stand it anymore. That my mother discouraged me from studying. I am one of the best students in my group, and my relatives are very happy with me. I'm glad. With respect and grand plans for the future, Katya.
Here is such a, not very the simple history. What do you think about it? Write about it in the comments. And of course, do not forget to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the next simple or difficult story. All the best to you and see you soon. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Sincerely yours, Vadim.